Hello. Yes, you. Don't worry, I can't see you. Or maybe I can. It's the Another Podcast. Yes, we are doing it again, and we're going to reflect on Gameweek 1. Lots have happened, lots of drama, which is no real surprise given how VAR goes, but we will talk about that. How are you guys doing? How are you feeling?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, well, from the Spurs point of view, I'm pretty satisfied. You know, would have liked the 3 points, but if I'm just going to do a kind of quick sweeping overview, I'd say I'm pretty happy. Mike?
I'm fuming. It's been. I'll tell you what. Normally, I'd say, you know what, on football side, taking a point away from Stamford Bridge is never a bad result. We actually scored there this time, and for 35 minutes, I thought we were really, really good. But all of that has just been any joy that was on the pitch. It just feels like a defeat at the moment. So it's more off the field stuff. So personally, I'm fine. Football wise, horrific, absolutely horrific. I now know what it feels like to be Arsenal and United for like the past 3 years, Arsenal for like the last decade. You just feel like a laughing stock. Really, we just can't get anything right in the transfer market. It's horrific. It is. It's like I said. I think I said it to you guys yesterday. It's like we went to try and date Margot Robbie and came back with Kathy Bates. It's just. I think it's worse that we got turned down by Kathy Bates. Do you know what I mean? We didn't even get to first base. She just shut us down. So not good.
Stood up, mate.
Yeah, not great. Not great. So yeah, I mean on Liverpool front, I'm sure we'll get round to it at some point. But hopefully there's other things to talk about.
Well, let's start chronologically. I mean, it was Burnley and Man City that started it all off. What do you think of the game?
Yeah, it's interesting, that one. Well, it's not interesting, let's be honest. 3-0 win for City, pretty standard. We're just literally having a look at it now. So like they had 65.5% possession compared to Burnley's 34. Total shots 17. Burnley had 6. 8 on target, 1 on target for Burnley. You know, it just sounds like pretty run-of-the-mill stuff for City, really, though.
Yeah, can't really add much to that. I think we all sort of knew that was going to happen. I didn't think it would be as comfortable as it was. I thought that surprised me. I thought it would be a really, really tough sort of ride because it's Turf Moor. It's the first day of the season. It's under the lights. People a bit like it was at Brentford. A couple of years ago. That place was absolutely rocking, and I thought it might be quite similar this time round. But I thought I was a bit disappointed actually in Burnley. I know it's City, but I was a bit disappointed in Burnley. I thought that we were going to get, I don't know, maybe a bit more than what we got. I think
we certainly got something because we got quite a big injury thanks to that game. Kevin De Bruyne's now out for what I think I've heard 4 months. Did you say, Sam?
Yeah, 4 months, but it's to be expected really, seeing as he had that hamstring injury throughout all of pre-season, hardly played any pre-season, and then Pep started him. So it's a risky take, isn't it? But
yeah,
you sort of Pep's going to sort of feel he's probably got conflicting emotions inside that bald dome of his. So, sort of, why did I do it? Why did I start him? And then there's the other side of it, which is like, well, he was medically cleared to play, so
That's it. You got to trust your medical department, don't you? Really? Do you know what I mean? It's not Pep's job to be a doctor or a medical expert. But I have to say, I felt a bit. I don't think it's as big a deal as I think people are making it out to be. I know he's a brilliant player, but the thing I've always sort of noticed about De Bruyne is that he doesn't really kind of get going until the second half of the season. That's usually where he makes a massive difference. If there was one player you could ask me for, in a run into a Premier League, I would, over the history of the Premier League, who has always turned up, I would always say Kev. It's like he just hits another gear from February onwards. And I think again, if they go and get Paqueta, then it's kind of much of a muchness, really. I think anyone can fit into that Pep team. The one thing I think that would be good, and I don't really want to say it's good because I can't stand him, but I do think that it gives Foden more of an opportunity to play. which I
Through
think.
the middle, yeah, he doesn't normally get to play in that role. Might be worth tinkering with Pep, won't it? So.
Yeah, I mean,
This is the interesting thing, isn't it? Because in the past, when Kevin De Bruyne's been injured, Gundogan has always stepped up to the plate and just. It's almost like a second Kevin De Bruyne. He was phenomenal. But now we don't have him at Man City. It's kind of an interesting scenario. Like you said, if they get Paqueta, that might fill the void, but he hasn't really proven much at West Ham. Not that I've seen.
I don't know. I think towards the end of last season, I think he began to sort of like get into the bit. The other thing about West Ham as well, it's a completely different kind of football. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you put him in a team that's actually going to keep the ball for about 70% of the game, yeah, he is going to be a little bit more fundamental, and he's going to have a bit more time on the ball, a bit more space, and he's got the technical ability to do it. I think West Ham isn't really suited for him in that respect, because they still play a very direct kind of football. You know, I think they're probably trying to change that, but until they actually find someone that can play up front that's not Mikel Antonio, that's probably not going to change.
I think they might struggle in some games. I think Kevin De Bruyne has always been that player where if they struggle to break down teams, he can unlock them, he can create that magic moment, and I think it'll be interesting, especially, you know, Haaland being a great goal scorer. He needs that setup. He needs somebody to kind of get him in.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make him weaker 100%. It does. Does it change the fact that I think they're probably going to walk the title? No. Would be my honest sort of. They are the one team. I mean, I know we've been discussing. I know this is sort of like an overall point, but just to kind of contextualize anything that I sort of say in this podcast with relation to I don't really believe in first game performances. I don't think it has any bearing on the season. I don't think it has anything to do with anything. I think it is literally that and Boxing Day are historically always a lottery. Do you know what I mean? Like, you just don't know what you're going to get. You know, you can read into pre-season, you can read into all that. It doesn't matter. But like United yesterday, played absolutely terribly, but got the job done. And really, that's all that matters. Do you know what I mean? That at the end of the day, you know, you can't win the title in the first few weeks, but you can sure as hell lose it. But City were the only team that I thought they look ready. Do you know what I mean? They look kind of rough and ready and prepped and ready to go. And the fact that
I think it's worth probably mentioning that although Burnley had their youngest fielded Premier League side, 23 years and amount of days on average, which, you know, when you're going up against the experience that City have got, you sort of understand how it made them look, how the result came about, and I think a lot of people were focusing on what Man City did and more on and actually they probably should be focusing on what Burnley didn't do, probably through a lack of experience. It almost needed someone a little bit older in the team to go, do you know what, lads, calm down a bit, we don't need to play the Hollywood passes every time, because I think every time I've noticed it, the guy De Silva for Burnley, every time he picked up the ball his head was up looking for a long pass, or very rarely was there a short pass played. It was always sort of looking for that over the top, trying to catch out, you know.
Yeah.
You're not going to catch out Kyle Walker, are you? Let's be honest.
No.
And, you know, it's probably also worth mentioning, because we are going to touch on VAR, that this was probably the first game in a long time where I've seen VAR intervene and make an outstandingly correct call.
Yeah.
Feel sorry for the lad Zarori. It's one of those where you make the dive, and it's just, unfortunately, his momentum's carried his foot up onto the back of the calf of Walker, and it's, you know, a red card. It's dangerous. It's out of control. But, you know, VAR intervened and made the right call. So,
yeah, which is unusual.
And considering what we've seen over the weekend, it highlights the inconsistency. In the first week, you'd sort of just hope that in the first week there wouldn't be something to talk about.
I know. I think the problem as well. This is probably like a different section, but in relation to what you're saying, Sam, as well, I think the fact that there's all this. I think we spoke about it last week as well, but like all the going on about the extra time, the added on time, and all this stuff that they're interfering with. Get your own stuff in order first before you start changing everything else. Do you know what I mean? Like you shouldn't be going in and talking about that sort of stuff if you can't even make. What's the point in having added on time if you can't even make the right calls in normal time? Do you know what I mean? It's baffling, absolutely baffling. But that's an entire different section on its own. So you know, and unfortunately,
agreement though, aren't we? It's, you know, it's something that needs addressing. But
yeah,
if you watch the Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher interview when they're against Howard Webb, and it's sort of Howard Webb strikes me as someone who probably wants to fix things, but is, you know, at the end of the day, he's just, although he's in charge, he can't control those blokes in the black shirts on.
No,
can he really?
No, I mean, we might as well, because we've sort of opened the can of worms. As obviously it's up to you, Ben. But like, part of me is thinking if we've already stepped onto it now, we might as well just go with the elephant in the room, which.
Yeah. I mean, the way I see it is that VAR is always going to be an evolving process. You know, it's never going to be a situation where we just come to a point where the referees just click in and they get it right every time. You know, you're always going to have a degree of human error. And I think so long as you have those processes in place to acknowledge those and to prevent it from leading on to kind of, you know, in a situation where you've got with rules where they're coming away possibly, you know, losing out on a point, you know, it's affecting their kind of their place on the table.
Shall we talk about should we jump forward to Monday?
We might as well, because obviously that's the outstanding VAR, apart from the Lewis Dunk handball, which is a load of nonsense as well. Apart from that was the real big VAR one, because that, you know, Luton were never going to get anything at Brighton regardless, you know, it stopped Brighton having a clean sheet. But this was a genuine sort of game changing. A game-changing decision, really, at the end of the day. So, I mean, you're the United fan, Sam. So, just the game in general.
So, I watched the build-up, watched the game, and everyone, even pundits, everyone sort of had Wolves down for a bit of a demolishing, really, and it was far from it. I mean, I think the first 5 minutes I could sort of see there was an issue. And it was when Martinez picked up the ball at the back and went to play a pass and couldn't play it because there was just no movement in front of him. And for someone like Martinez, who can ping a pass and find a pass, for him to go back to Onana, I sort of went, this doesn't look great. But for the first 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden, Wolves just suddenly, you know, although we were absolutely terrible with our passing, and they picked up on the loose ball, they suddenly stepped up a gear. They smelt blood. They literally just went for it. And apart from them being absolutely dire in front of goal, you know, they outplayed United, and United definitely didn't deserve the win. The only positive I can take from the game was Rafael Varane, who I thought was outstanding, and you know, should have added another goal earlier on in the game before his actual goal.
He missed the header from the corner, didn't he?
Yeah, and it, you know, great chance and free header. Just he should do better, but it from a United perspective, like I said, we talk about first week games and we sort of go, well, it's not really worth looking too much into it. I think Ten Hag will look into it because it looked so lethargic. It looked so just disinterested was the best word I think I heard. And you know, Rashford barely had any touches. I think he was in the first 20 minutes. He only had 4 touches, and you just sort of like, you know, really.
Yeah.
We're pinning on the fact of having a striker with Rasmus Højlund. The difficulty is getting the ball to him anyway, by the looks of it, because if he's in the same spot as Rashford, he's only going to be touching the ball 4 times, and that's because I think another thing was an issue was the midfield. And although Casemiro was there, I think he was absolutely knackered by the end of that game, because he was, for the majority of it, the holding the only holding.
That's the first time I've seen him play and think he looks old.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I don't want to scare you, and I don't want to scaremonger at all, but it does strike me very much as I mean, this is testament to Casemiro, but he reminded me in that game of Fabinho last year, just like a yard off, just not able to get there. There was that bit where I think, and don't get me wrong, Cunha's a really powerful ball, and he's a ball carrier, and he's incredibly quick. But there was that bit where Casemiro last year would have... I think he came into the side of it. It was before they set up the really big chance for Sarabia, where he hit it across the goal. And Casemiro last year just gets his leg in and just toes that ball away and just makes it. But it was a bit like, he's just not quite turning as quickly as he did. Just a little bit lethargic in making the tackle. Yeah, and to have that first game week, I mean, you can be rusty, and then you can be... Do you know what I mean? Like the timing off. Do you know what I mean? That there's a difference. So yeah, I can see what I would be worried as well. I think.
Yeah,
no, I was just going to say, Sam. Do you think that Man United, your squad, was expecting an easier game? Because it's happened in the past, and that may have been just the kind of the old mentality of Man United. But there are a lot of times where they've been kind of sucker punched by smaller clubs because they've gone into games almost kind of expecting to win them.
Yeah.
And you'd think, the first game of the season, you're at home, you'd be pumped. You'd be going there hungry. You want it to kind of have the best possible outcome. You're going to push for every goal. You're not going to hold back. But to me, it just seemed like the complete opposite.
Yeah,
it just seemed like it was almost like they caught off guard because, like you say, everyone was expecting with Wolves losing the manager, losing kind of key players. This is going to be quite a wounded squad that are not prepared for the season.
Yeah, I think I don't know what it was, whether Gary O'Neill has come in and sort of in the four days that he had has just sort of said, a bit of a, not necessarily a carefree attitude, but more of just a calming sort of, let's just get this first week done sort of thing. There's no pressure on you boys, nothing to worry about, and that just sort of allowed them to play a bit more free flowing, and perhaps the build up for United being that we won a trophy last season, got to the final of the FA Cup, finished in the Champions League. Now everyone expects there to be improvement, and whether that's not been managed or handled well in the background for United, and whether there's that sort of that nagging in the back of players' heads, I don't know. But I think the bigger problem for me, rather than thinking we're going to go out and win this, was the actual style of play for the midfield. United only had 51% possession, whereas Wolves had 49%. And although we had more by the couple of percent there, but didn't feel like it. And the main issue I had was that Bruno and Mount are both number 10s. They both push on, and there was one point where you had Bruno, Casemiro and Mount all going to the ball. There was no holding your position. It was all three of them were pressing, and to the point where they were almost sort of 2-3 yards away from each other in a triangle, and Cunha just jumps through all of them. And if one of them makes a tackle, that's great, because all three of them are up the pitch. There's further, there's more pressing further up the pitch. But if you don't make that tackle, you're knackered, you're screwed, because as we saw last night, the space that was left for Cunha to run into was just massive. You could the Titanic in between. I
was going to say I'd be terrified if that is the way that they're going to play, and I don't think it is, for the record. But if that's against any kind of team that's competent in front of the goal, that could have been quite embarrassing.
Absolutely, and I think the best thing to look at was when Eriksen came on and Sancho, because
so they got some control, really.
Eriksen just dropped right back in front of that defence with Casemiro. Casemiro looked a bit calmer. He looked a bit happy just to sort of have someone partnering with him. I noticed when in the second half when Lindelof came on, that he was pushing into midfield rather than Luke Shaw. So rather than have that inverted wing back in the as that extra CDM role. Lindelof was doing that, and I just don't think it worked. He's probably not the right player to do that. But yeah, because people are talking about Mount's debut as well. Like, he had no chance created, no crosses made, no tackles won, and you just sort of went, it's true, but was he in? Was the system correct for his style of play? I'd probably say no. I don't think.
No,
I'm not saying that he had a good debut by any stretch of the margin. I think it was, pretty poor, and we bigged up Mount obviously the day before or yesterday, and I'd still stick by my claim of that. He is a good all-round player, but yesterday didn't look great. I think our passing accuracy, we had a better passing accuracy than Wolves going off of the stats, but it just didn't feel like it. It just didn't feel like a normal United team. Not the United team that we had last season anyway, but again, first week, I just got to hope that it's not anything to worry about.
What do you put that down to? Do you put that Ten Hag for getting the formation wrong, or is it just the players aren't? Is it down to them to kind of communicate better and know the system?
I think it's potentially. Last night I sort of had a right sort of. There was a red mist head on. And sort of like there was no bottle. There was no real sort of want that I could see last night, and Wolves won 70% of the aerial duels to like the 29% that we had or whatever it was, and it just sort of screams that can't get stuck in. Like, why are they winning everything? Why are they first to everything? It just sort of, I think personally, they're just. This is going to sound like excuses, but I just think the pre-season was wrong. I didn't agree with.
You were playing a game every 2 days or something stupid, wasn't it? At some point.
I didn't agree with flying out to America and splitting up the squads to play Wrexham purely for let's be honest, the Hollywood side of it, because of Reynolds and McElhenney. They wanted a big team to play against. They were never going to get the big players to play against, and it was a B team. But I think splitting up the squad, having lots of travelling, training in between that, I think it was probably too much. And I know it sounds like excuses, but I genuinely just think the players have come back, and now that they'll get back into a routine of a game at the weekend, then training, that will be better. But I think it's too late in terms of for the start of the season. We still won. I'm sounding doom and gloom here, but we still won. Still got, got the victory, and I don't know how, because obviously Onana he had a good debut apart from
the obvious.
Do a frog splash off the top rope onto.
Yeah, we might as well clarify that, because obviously the PGMOL have come out now, haven't they, and said. Apologise, but to be fair to them, on that note, the PGMOL, I think it's brilliant though, because this didn't used to happen, but it's literally they've made a massive cock up. It's cost the team points. They can't give them back because obviously no one knows if they would have scored the pen, and then you open a whole can of worms. Yeah. But to then go right, okay, well you've not played very well, so you're not refereeing next weekend. I think is a brilliant thing. I think that's it.
So I was just about to say, I think this whole idea of punishing a ref by taking them off for a weekend, to me that just sounds like, okay, here's a paid holiday.
Bit of a slap on the wrist.
You can lower on what you did wrong, but you're coming back next week to do the same thing again. Like, it's all well and good, but I feel like there needs to be harsher sanctions on referees that get it wrong, because for the clubs, especially towards the end of the season where every point matters and it can dictate whether you're in Europe or whether you're going to get relegated. If they make a mistake on this level in the biggest league in the world, one weekend is kind of a bit like, well, yeah, what's that going to do?
Yeah, but then you've also got to remember though that they miss out then on the match sheet, and the other thing as well is that this is a whole two-way street. And I'm not because obviously my theories on some of the refereeing that we got. There are some in particular I think just aren't fit for purpose. There's no getting around it. But there is the side of A, they miss out on the match fees. B, it's sort of like the shame of being taken off it, because it's the same as basically that's your profession. Do you know what I mean? It's the same as basically someone telling you can't do your job, so we're going to get someone else to do it for you. The one thing I would say though is that in all fairness, when it comes to like the teams and all this is important to them, how many of those teams have cheated other teams out of points or tried to cheat teams out of other points by cheating, for lack of a better phrase, by diving for pens, by waving imaginary yellow cards, this has all come back on the players, because I loved it this weekend in the sense that they were giving out yellow cards willy-nilly for people that were just... I thought it was, yeah, and this has come from a Liverpool fan when McAllister got booked for it as well, because I don't like seeing that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's a foul. Get on with it. Do you know what I mean? We've all played football. We've all been fouled. We've all had it where someone's literally just come in and clobbered you, and the first thing you want to do, what's the point of getting to the ref? He knows that. He's given the free kick. Just get on with it. Do you know what I mean? It's not your job to referee it, and that's why in some respect I have some sympathy for the clubs, but at the same time I don't, because this has been a long time coming. Yeah, that's cost Wolves 2 points. How many times over the years, and this isn't specifically targeted at Wolves, but this is clubs all up and down the country in general, how many points have they actually cheated out of other teams by conning the ref? This is all karmic justice, really.
I had a thought about this today, because obviously I went to bed and woke up and saw all the PGMO stuff, and I thought about it, and I watched the thing again, and I'm thinking the only reason I can think that the ref on the pitch didn't make the call, so the only reason I don't think that Simon Hooper went, that's a pen, was from what he could see. And I think personally, I think he's looked at it and gone, okay, Onana's made contact with Kaladzic, but Kaladzic hasn't headed the ball. It was Dawson, I think, behind him.
Yeah.
And I think Ten Hag said it in the press conference afterwards, and that he said there was a touch before Onana's clattered into Kaladzic, therefore, he's not interfering with the play, which, that can be the only reason that I think that Simon Hooper went, it's probably not a pen. But the only thing I don't understand is why Michael Salisbury didn't go, you need to go and look at the monitor. That's the only thing I don't get. It's the only thing I don't get. And I'm a United fan, I'm happy we got the points, But it's just, I was just like, what? I had a message from a mate who, she said, that's it, we've absolutely fucked it. And, I went, yeah, you're right. And then that was it, checks complete, no penalty. I was like, whoa.
Literally, I think everybody, including all the fans in the stadium, I think every
stadium, you could tell that they knew. That
was yeah. I mean, I don't know if there's maybe a side of it where maybe because of the kind of criticism and the critique that VAR came in for last year, they're trying to be a little bit more not as sort of happy, because last year, let's be fair, anything got checked on VAR. Do you know what I mean? Literally, throw-ins would probably have got checked on VAR if they could have done. Do you know what I mean? And maybe they're trying to, but I just think it's a really bad look for the league. I just do. I just don't understand how they can.
Shall we move on?
Yeah. Cause I just don't understand how they can get it so wrong. I just don't. But that'll be the final.
I think, to be fair, if we're going to close the note, and if we're talking about VAR, I think, like you said, addressing the positive is that, this kind of dissent, seeing players trying to, the dark arts as we call it, trying to crack down on that is a good thing for the sport. And I think, I think they were saying last season, the average play time was 55 minutes.
Yeah. And
you think, how does that happen? That's, you're losing what? Oh God, here, maths, fuck. Was it 35 minutes of the game?
Yeah.
From basically just players being petulant, kind of wasting time, just trying to hold up the game as much as possible. And you think that's where they've, I think, like you said, they've done it right. I think
the thing is with that, did you boys go to any games last season?
Yeah, I did. I went to a few.
So I went and saw United play twice last season, and I didn't feel like I lost any money. like for the experience. That's what I don't.
I don't think that. I mean, I don't want to sound it, and this is going to be very, very cynical. But I'm in the same boat as you, Sam. I don't think there's any fan that kind of walks away from it thinking, "Oh, I didn't get 90 minutes of football there."
Apparently I've lost half an hour's worth of football just because this person's had received treatment on the pitch or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I mean, okay, maybe say we will add more time on, but up to a maximum of 8 minutes. We're not going to go above 8 minutes because I think it was 11 minutes I saw in the game was.
But this is what I mean. This is how you address it though, because if you start to crack down on it, people will stop doing the tactical fouls. They will stop conjuring the dark arts, and they will focus on actual playing the game because they know they won't get away with it.
Yeah.
It's that point where you're going to see
because it was Aston Villa game when Tyrone Mings got stretched off, so I can understand that.
Yeah, but
what you'll just see is less and less of the kind of dark arts, and you'll see more and more of just playing football, and that's what you want. You want a better product.
I don't also mean to sound it, but do you guys, and this is me being very cynical, do you guys think there is an argument that a lot of the let's call them the more reputable teams might have had a word with the PGMOL? Because let's face it, the main ones that are that I'm guessing that they're kind of looking at for time wasting is the teams that probably go and visit the big away ground, which I think is, I get it, but then you are literally again you are just catering for let's just make it bigger for easier for the bigger teams. Do you know what I mean? Because
I think it works both ways. I think you're right. It shouldn't penalise just the small clubs or the big clubs. It shouldn't penalise, the elite. This is about creating a fair playing ground, And if it means that smaller teams are going to suffer because they have to, they just have to control the ball more, at the end of the day. And I think, we're probably going to see a bit more rotation now these seasons because there's more play time. Bigger clubs are going to have to rotate players more, so they can't just rely on their starting 11 throughout the season. They're going to have to learn to rotate. So in that sense,
that's not good news.
You're going to see a drop in quality in the big teams because they do typically rely, unless you're, Chelsea, City, or Arsenal, who've effectively got a team B. Teams are going to suffer for it. All teams are. It's not just going to be the small clubs now.
Shall we touch on your guys' teams now?
Let's
start with should we start with Brentford and Tottenham?
Yes,
then?
please.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I've got a smile on my face, and I think a lot of Tottenham fans have, because for us, this wasn't about going into the season with kind of expectations of getting top four and winning trophies. This was about playing a better brand of football. And coming away from that game, if somebody asked me, were you happy with how we played football? Yeah, I was. And I think we actually came out in the second half the better team. And I think, we weren't trying to hold the ball. We weren't trying to just basically sit in our third and soak up all the pressure. We weren't gun shy waiting for a lucky hook. We were playing good football. And, from a Spurs bias, you could argue, I think Brentford were lucky to get the goals they did, to be honest, because the second goal was definitely a mean deflection, and I think, I think our only kind of Achilles heel right now, and kind of the obvious one, is because Harry Kane's left. Richarlison, I know it's only the first game, he's not giving me a lot of confidence up front, and I think that's where we need to invest, if we do.
So Spurs had 69.6% possession. Brentford had 30.4%.
Yeah, and that's against Brentford at home.
Yeah.
Which last season they only lost 2 home games, and I think that was City and Arsenal. So at home, it's a fortress. Not many teams go there and get a win.
Looking at the stats, I think so. You had 18 shots, they had 11. Both had 6 on target. You had more off target, and you had more blocked. Passing accuracy was 89.7% as well.
Yeah.
So there's something there.
We're definitely cooking it.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to it. And I really think our midfield was it's a huge improvement to last season, because it's a Basuma. I think this is going to be a season where he kind of shows the kind of Basuma that we saw at Brighton. This really kind of lax midfielder who can kind of hold the ball and move it very smoothly and link up very well. And then you've got Maddison, who's obviously a phenomenal attacking midfielder.
He got both assists for your goals as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy, and I think to fair to play, there's nothing I would say was bad with Brentford. I think Brentford played really well, and I think they gave us a really hard test.
I'll tell you what, Rico Henry for Brentford is just some fullback.
Yeah, he is.
Oh, yeah.
He's incredible. I think, and I also think someone else who stood out in that game. And what Spurs were crying out for was...
Yeah, was it Wisa?
I think Van der Ven was just outstanding for you guys. I thought he was brilliant at the back.
He had a great debut.
Just definitely. Super calming as well. Just like...
and fair play to Sanchez. I always kind of wince when I hear the name Sanchez when he gets subbed on, and I think, oh God, here we go. But to be fair, he did well that game. He held his own. So,
what's your take on the goalkeeping front?
So, I heard a lot of good things about this goalkeeper last season, because in Serie A he was rated as one of the top 3 goalkeepers, and you look at his stats. He's a promising young goalkeeper. And I think it's just a matter of time. This is only the first game, and I think he's come to a new country and a new league. He just needs time to settle. And
what are you thinking about Kane?
Oh, mate.
I had to ask.
You couldn't write it, could you? The morning he goes to Munich. He does a bit of a training session, and then he's thrown into a cup game. And this is a cup they've won for the last 3 years, Bayern. And they lost it, and I do feel for him, and I don't think that's a reflection on Kane at all, because he got subbed on this 60th minute.
Yeah, he had half an hour to try and do something.
Yeah, and by that point they were lost. So he will have plenty of times to shine, and he'll be a great addition to the Bundesliga. I think that's a great pull, having Kane in the league, and I think Bayern have got a good shout in the Champions League run, to be fair.
Mike, what did you think? Anything you wanted to take out of that Spurs Brentford game?
Not really. I mean, it for me, I think it was very much what it was. I think it's sort of two decent mid-table teams probably having a go. I've got.
You had to get it in.
It's true, but it's true. I like with the greatest will in the world. Like it's Brentford, but without Tony, which is a bit like.
And it's Kane without. It's Spurs without Kane, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But Brentford haven't spent anywhere near the same amount of it. Nothing against.
Are you still sticking to your?
Yes, I am, and that won't change. I do think I'd have to say when they got Van der Ven, I think that is a great signing. I think he's the perfect partner for Romero, because Romero is a headless chicken. Brilliant, can be brilliant, but can also get himself sent off within 5 minutes. Do you know what I mean? He is one or the other. Whereas I think Van der Ven, for a guy who's so young, is just. Yeah,
I still can't believe you think they'll be relegated.
In all fairness, I did say if Kane got relegated with the squads as they are, but even then I'm sticking with it because I'm a man of my word. And I just, if something happened to Maddison, which will happen because I don't think Maddison's ever had a season where he's remained fit for the whole way through, I would be a little bit concerned. The midfield did really impress me, though, actually, I have to say. But if they can get Basuma playing regularly, like he did at the weekend, and like he did for Brighton,
you're forgetting the fact that we had Lo Celso on the bench, and Pape Sarr, he was brilliant pre-season. I watched him, and he's a good little player. He's a young player. He's so.
Yeah, he is good. I think you've got the right bloke in charge. Put it that way. I think the brand of play that Postecoglou is going to play is going to be perfect, and I think that's why Spurs fans should be excited, because if anything, it will be, at least you are going to go back to the Spurs way of playing football, which is, it's exciting, it's on the front foot, it's plenty of chances but not winning anything. Yeah, and that's...
We've discussed it before. The last time we won a domestic cup was 2008.
Oh, here we go.
Last year, Kane signs a professional contract. Now that Kane's gone, we'll see who's where the Spursy comes from.
It comes from the fact that you're Spurs, because before 2008, mate, you'd also won nothing. So it's literally Kane. Without Kane, mate, for the last few seasons, I am 100% sure you would not be a Premier League team. I am 100% sure of that, easily.
Well,
and
yeah, that's a take. That's a hot take.
No,
Very hot take.
It's literally.
To be honest, I look forward to the end of the season. I really do. No doubt Mike will too. But I think we're going to have a very different idea of what will come at the end of the season.
We will. Still, yeah, I'm still sticking to it.
Come on then, let's do the Chelsea-Liverpool game.
Do we have to?
Go on, Mike, what's your thoughts?
Game-wise, you know what? Again, I think at the time, it's weird because I can look at it from a completely footballing perspective. I look at it and go, you know what? At the start of every season, you look at the rest of the big six. I call them now like the big 7 or 8. Do you know what I mean? Or maybe still the big 6. Just Newcastle have replaced Spurs, and you go into those games away from home, and you just go, you know what? If we can get out of there with a point, that's pretty good. Do you know what I mean? Like if you go to the Emirates, you get a point. Good. You go to Old Trafford, you get a point. Brilliant. You go to the Etihad, you get a point. That's a fucking outstanding result.
Chelsea had 64.9% possession, Liverpool 35. You had 13 shots to their 10. However, they had 4 on target,
and we had 1.
Only 1 on target was your goal.
The thing I'm most disappointed about was that, very similar to maybe the Wolves thing against United, is that we had so many chances where if the final ball had been better. I hate saying it, but literally, I just kind of get the impression that if the final ball, as in the final pass, had been Salah to someone else, we would have scored more. Because it was Diaz and Jota, who I thought had a really poor game, actually. I thought Jota was pretty poor, and Núñez did more in 10 minutes than Jota did all game. Gakpo in midfield. We're literally playing, it feels like at the moment, we don't know what we're playing. Do you know what I mean? It literally feels like we're playing 4-2-4. That's literally, the first 35 minutes is exactly what I think Klopp wants and what I think we're accustomed to. The tempo was really high. Szoboszlai and McAllister looked brilliant. Do you know what I mean? Chelsea couldn't get out their half. They couldn't string 4 passes together at the start. We just kept winning in, nicking the ball really high. Then the final ball let us down. We could have been 3-0 up, to be fair, before they scored. The goal itself is a classic Liverpool goal, which is what makes me really worried, because it's not just a defensive midfielder we need. We need a left-sided centre-back, because if we're going to play this box formation with Trent moving into it, Robbo cannot play as a left-sided centre-back. He's another one where this year I am worried about him and the fall off that we've had. I think now, if you ask any Liverpool fan, I think we're all quite wary of that generation. Apart from Salah, I think we're all sort of worried about them dropping off physically as well as in terms of performance. And Robbo just got absolutely decimated. And when you're getting decimated by Raheem Sterling, I think you really need to take a look at yourself in the mirror. Reece James was excellent. The best thing that happened was him going off for us, because I think if he'd stayed on the pitch a little bit longer, we would have been in big trouble.
Well, to be honest, he was caught out for your goal.
He was, but again, going forward, it just summed up England right backs really. They're all really good going forward, apart from Kyle Walker. He's the only one that's quite decent defensively, and that's because his pace gets him out of most of the trouble. But he's crap going forward. If you could merge them all together, you'd have the ultimate right back. But Trent can't defend, but is dynamite going forward. Reece James is slightly better at defending, and just as good going forward, but still not great defensively. And Kyle Walker's very good defensively, but terrible going forward. Chilwell was great. I think he's very, very underrated. I think he's a fantastic player. This is going to be a bit of a hot take. I'm not sure if you'd agree, Sam, because I really like Luke Shaw. But if you were to offer me a fully fit Ben Chilwell or a Luke Shaw, depends actually. If they're playing as wing backs, you have you have Chilwell. If you're playing as a left back, you have Luke Shaw, don't you? Really?
I don't know. I think they're both equally. Probably they've both got their positives.
Yeah.
I think Luke can probably play both roles and is a bit more oriented than Chilwell.
Tell you what, he'd be perfect for us as a left-sided centre-back. Any chance you're selling him? Because I tell you, literally, we could use some of that right now. I tell you. Yeah.
What did you think of the game?
For the record, I think Chelsea were excellent. Actually, I will put it out there. I thought they were brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what I imagined to happen. I did in my mind predict a draw, and I think this is just going to be a resurgence of Chelsea now. I think they just look the real deal. And I've said that every season, but I feel like where they just had such an exodus of players, which just kind of stagnated, and there's so much turmoil behind the scenes with the club. I think you're now seeing a settled squad with a lot of potential. A lot of young players. It seems to be the kind of new trend now, is that young squads kind of. To be honest, not a lot of experience, but just a lot of tenacity, a lot of kind of.
I still think they're a way off.
Winding themselves.
I do.
I put them down to win a trophy this season, to like a cup in the.
I think top four's good for them. I don't think any. I think
they have
to. I think the cups are probably a little bit of a stretch because I don't think they'll have the experience to deal with cup competition.
No.
They should probably just focus on the league and
go
back into the Champions League.
They've also
not Champions League. I think Europe just
yeah.
They get fifth, because even if they get fifth, they might get Champions League because obviously there's talk.
They've effectively got
fifth spot, isn't there?
Yeah.
I mean, Mike was joking about it earlier. They've effectively got 3 teams right now.
Yeah.
And no Europe.
And they're still adding to them.
Yeah, I still think that's a big problem. And I don't, because two things is that with the Cups, they've still got Pochettino, which until he wins something of any substance, don't think that's going to change my mind on that. He's near to elite, but not quite, which is probably perfect for this Chelsea team because he's brilliant at bringing through young players. But the other thing is, at Spurs, when he was at Spurs, I don't know how good he is at managing a squad that big. At Spurs, he had 15, 16 players that played week in, week out, that were really young. He moulded them into his own thing. They've not changed anything, but for all the players that they've let go, they've brought in just as many. So they're still going to have this whole kind of, we need 2 training grounds to be able to do a training session. It's all rosy right now because everyone's like, oh, it's a brand new era, it's this, that, and the other. Give it a few months where someone like Madueke hasn't played, when someone like Thiago Silva gets injured and he has to go out and he hasn't played, when Badiashile hasn't played, and then let's see just how well it works there. Chelsea is and has been. I think it was the original toxic club in terms of the players able to get rid of managers. It was the original, and it still is. It's what happened last year. It's what happened with Conte. It's what's happened with every manager beforehand. And I don't think that changes overnight. And I'm not 100% certain. At the moment, everything is rosy. But when things get a little bit difficult and players aren't playing, it suddenly becomes a lot harder than you think. You cannot go into a Premier League season with a squad of 25 players that are expecting to play consistently. You cannot do that. No one's ever been able to do that. Even Pep, when we got about City's squad, that squad was still maybe about 18 players that rotated around, never up to 20, 25. And there are 25 first-team players in that Chelsea squad. 25, that will be that, because there's probably about 25 they've literally brought in over the last 2 years. They're expecting game time. I will be amazed, absolutely amazed, if they. I also don't think the goalkeeper's good enough either. I think Robert Sanchez, a good player, a good keeper, but he's not great. He's not a top 4 goalkeeper, put it that way, I don't think. But I would be amazed if they got top 4, because I think Pochettino is a really good coach. And not being funny, but if you throw enough money at a wall, some of it will eventually stick. And they need it, put it this way, if they don't get Champions League, yeah, we know that they're kind of getting by FFP at the moment. If they don't get the Champions League money, I think it then does become a problem.
There'll certainly be questions if they don't.
Well, there's no excuse for them not to. if you spend nearly £1 billion in 2 summers and they're still not done yet, then yeah, it's like the Elise transfer today. They've already got Sterling, they've already got Madueke, they've already got Mudryk, they've already got God knows however many. I can't remember the squad list. I probably have to get it up in an Excel spreadsheet. Do you know what I mean? But how many other wingers do you need? It's just buying for the sake of buying. I just don't really understand it. I really don't. Great player, like I said, but the other thing is as well is I feel for the players that are going there because, and you know, we've all been there. It's like, do you remember when there was that running joke of, oh, it's you know, and there was almost like a genuine investigation into Chelsea just hoarding players and then not playing them. It's the same thing. How in the world are any of these players going to get sufficient game time to help them develop? For me, for Elise, this is a backward step because he's going to be first on the team sheet at Palace. Especially now Zaha's gone, he's going to be on every set piece, he's going to be at the fulcrum of everything that they do, along with Eze, and now he's going to go and basically warm the feet of Raheem Sterling on the bench, along with Madueke. Yeah, I can't understand why. Caicedo I get, because you know he's going to be the first. Yeah, he's going to be first team. He's going to walk into that team, and no one else is going to take that spot off of him. But the others, I'm just sat there going, why in the world, unless you're a centre forward or a goalkeeper now, why in the world would you go to Chelsea? Because you're just not going to get game time, or as much as you would want. You'll get a hell of a load of it here. You'll get a massive paycheck, which I don't want to be cynical, but I can't help but kind of feel that that's probably part of the reason. But maybe it's me being a bit of a Liverpool fan, but I do think there is a little bit of logic to that. I know if I was a player, I would much rather stay somewhere, play regularly, and then earn my big move rather than go and warm the boots to someone else who's probably not quite as good as I am, but has a bigger reputation. AKA Raheem. Who actually at the weekend, he was very good, annoyingly.
So, I wanted to ask both of you a question about this game. And it was something I thought about earlier, actually, before we got on to the podcast, and it was I sort of feel that, I know you sort of touched on your midfield a little bit, Mike, when you were talking about the game, but I feel, and this isn't a United Liverpool thing, I feel that Fernandes for Chelsea upstaged McAllister and Szoboszlai on their debuts. I feel he was I don't know, I just looked at him during the game, I just thought he was incredible. I just thought he literally was playing one-touch passes and they were going to where they needed to go. But I'm not taking anything away from McAllister, because I also think he had a very good debut, but I just think like Enzo Fernandez yesterday, or on Sunday rather, was amazing. I don't know if you boys thought the same.
Yeah, he was man of the match for me. I thought he was brilliant. I thought for the first 30 minutes he was anonymous. And it was only really when we kind of sort of lost a bit of energy. Again, I personally, I think there's not much to choose between him and McAllister. I think if you're playing in that sort of role, Szoboszlai and McAllister have only just got here. Enzo's been there for nearly a year now. But there's not much between them. Do you know what I mean? I'd happily have McAllister, or I'd happily have Fernandes. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't prefer one or the other. I think they're both very, very, very good players. I think Szoboszlai actually kind of went a bit under the radar. I actually thought some of the stuff he did was actually really, really good. I think he did a lot more of the dirty work, really, and I think that kind of went under the radar a little bit. McAllister's going to be excellent in terms of he's going to be that ball-playing midfielder. I think Szoboszlai is going to be maybe a bit more of that number 8. Probably, obviously, because we didn't get Bellingham. I think he's the one that we've kind of got to play that role. He's obviously been given the shirt. He's already played more games than Naby Keita, so that was good. And he already made more of a flipping impact as well. I thought Fernandes was outstanding. I thought him, Ben Chilwell, Ibu Konate, I thought had a really good game. I thought honestly now, I mean, I hate it when Gary Neville and that talk, because all they do is talk about legacy stuff, where they're just going, oh, Trent, Robbo, Van Dijk, yeah, they're brilliant. Maybe apart from Konate, that's a world class back four. So I would have Konate over Van Dijk any day of the week at the moment. Do you know what I mean? Like, Van Dijk was better in that game than he's probably been all the whole of last season, but literally, I just think Konate is just at the moment, if you're going defensively, because he's doing the work of two people as well. Do you know what I mean? Because Verge doesn't have to do anything really, because he's got Robbo beside him. But Canate, he's got an ocean to his right hand side that he has to get out to as well. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what Ben thinks as well. They probably know Yves Bissouma, but
well, like I said, I think Bissouma's going to definitely have a breakout season. I think he's, I think he'll be impressive, unless he gets an injury. You know, you never know. But no, I think if you're still listening, if there's people out there who want to pitch in their feedback, I think the question is, who do people think have, in terms of clubs, where's the best midfield?
Here we go.
if he's going on about the Spurs have got a better midfield, then
no, because Man City exists, and to be fair to Arsenal, they have a very strong midfield. There's a whole collection of clubs with good midfields. It's a question of people have their own personal opinions. Put in the comments what you think is what your thoughts are. I mean, Sam, who do you think has the best midfield in the Premier League?
I'm not touching that with a barge pole, mate. I'm not touching that with a barge pole.
City.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think probably is.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah. We don't have a midfield, so I can't answer that question.
You don't have a complete midfield.
Let's get back to the results, Ben.
Yeah.
Move us on.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Benton who?
How did we feel Luton fared? Because I think we all kind of put them down as a kind of relegation fodder.
Yeah,
kind
we
of
did.
to be bottom place.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you want to have first crack at it? Well, actually, what did you think, Ben? Because I know me and Sam spoke a little bit to start with that last game. So what did you make of it?
I think against Brighton, it's hard to tell. I think that those are the kind of games where you're not going to get a lot out of Luton, because I think there's just such a parallel quality. It'd be interesting to see them against a club against Sheffield, Burnley, see them kind of go against each other again, and you know, your Bournemouths, your Wolverhamptons, you know.
Yeah.
Brighton's just such a impressive. They've always been impressive. Like last season, they were phenomenal. So it's really hard to use that as a marker, because you're going against quality from the day one.
Yeah.
But I think they were right. I think obviously 4-1's not flattering, but I think could have been worse.
I actually think 4-1 flattered Brighton a little bit. Actually, I thought. Don't get me wrong, they dominated the game. They deserved to win, but I do feel that Luton actually they did a lot better than I thought they would. In terms of that for a start, they lasted till I can't remember actually. Did they last till half time, or was it 35th minute?
Marsh scored in the first half.
Yeah. But I mean, to go to Brighton and have that, the bigger teams have gone there and got turned over a lot more convincingly. Apart from Everton, which was a random one. But yeah, I thought Luton did quite well. I don't think they did themselves any harm. I think they're obviously going to cause problems because they made chances. I just think it's that thing of, again, very similar to what I have with we spoke about it before. I think they're on a similar boat to Sheffield United in the sense of I think they're both very good, well-drilled, organised teams, but that isn't enough to stay up in the Premier League. You need to have firepower, and I don't think they have enough firepower. But I don't think they actually really have any intention of sort of stay. I don't think the owners have really much intention of staying in the Premier League. I think they very much know that is it worth really putting us into financial disarray to try and stay in a league where it's such a massive job, or do we just sort of go there, we take the money, put a little bit of investment in to make sure it's not embarrassing, and then rebuild again and try and get back in there again, just kind of gradually do it like a lot of teams have and be a bit of a yo-yo club, but without spending shitloads of money. I thought they were good. I thought they were really good. They impressed me more than Sheffield United did, I think.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think it's almost a bit premature to come to the Premier League, but like you said, I think this is just going to be just a cycle of, they're always going to kind of be now competing maybe towards the top end of the championship.
Yeah.
The players, and they can still build on it.
Yeah.
Then they just keep going up. They take the money, and like you say, they just slowly invest. I think if they can get a new stadium in the future, get a better academy, you'll probably see them more often kind of challenging.
Yeah.
Championship.
Yeah, definitely. I said I think they don't have anything to worry about in terms of like. I just think if they just treat it for what it is, which it might be a very short stay in the league, but they weren't even
nothing to lose really.
No, they weren't expected to get there. So do you know what I mean? It's literally it's a win-win. Do you know what I mean? I don't really. They can't lose Luton because no one expects them to stay up, and everyone expects them to get hammered 5-0 every week. So as long as they don't do that. It's fine. Do you know what I mean? They can just kind of be there, enjoy the ride, give the fans a really good season in the Premier League and some really good away days, pick up a few wins, and then that should be enough. Do you know what I mean? I think you'd have to be a really die-hard Luton fan to kind of think, you know what, I think we're going to stay up this season. I think you'd have to be very... Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I think you would have to be very, very die-hard and very optimistic. I hope that, for the record, I hope they do, because it means there's an extra chance Spurs will go down. But I just think it would be... Plus, I've got that bet on. If I do this... For context viewers, like literally, I thought, for a laugh, I'll put a bet on Spurs to get relegated at the end of last season, because I had a feeling Kane was going to go, right? It wouldn't give me the option to just go Spurs to get relegated. I had to pick 3 clubs. So I couldn't pick them. The only option that had Spurs in it was Sheffield United, Luton, Tottenham. That was the only option that they gave me. So I put £2 on that, and if I do it, I'm going to get $2,500. So, so if you're really wondering what my motivation is, Ben, that's what it is. This is purely greed. This is purely greed.
Chases us at some point. Right, well, I'll tell you what, we'll talk about Aston Villa and Newcastle, because I think a lot of us, I think you two were quite convinced that Aston Villa were going to be in a much stronger position this year. I mean, is this kind of just showing maybe the reality of it all, or is it just a kind of a one-off?
No, it's a one-off.
It's a one-off, 100% a one-off.
Yeah.
We spoke about, and they were definitely not full strength. Sort of halfway through the first half, where they, especially, they
could have scored 3. Do you know what I mean? Before, easily they could have scored 3.
You look at the stats for the game, and it was pretty balanced. To be fair, 52% for Newcastle, 47 for Villa for possession, 17 shots for Newcastle, 16 for Villa.
Yeah,
I think Newcastle were just more clinical.
I'd say they've got better forwards. I think Newcastle have got a better striker. I think.
And the thing is as well, you have to. The other thing that sort of is really quite striking is, so Newcastle had 85.3% accuracy on their passing, and Villa had 85.5%. So there's no difference in terms of those starting 11s. In my opinion, I think you literally just said it, Mike. I just think. I like Ollie Watkins, I do, but I think in terms of development, we saw Isak a little bit last season, not as much as he probably would have wanted to with the injury and stuff, but he's obviously developed quite well. This season looks really good.
He is some player. He is going to be some player.
But I do still think that is. I thought this about the Brighton Luton game. I think it's literally just first week. I just think Newcastle just put them to the sword. Villa, it's kind of. This is probably the most difficult game to probably
start with. Yeah,
I also probably because I don't think you can. The stats really don't tell. They don't lie. That is literally, that game was so balanced until literally, I think it was the 58th minute. So it was 2-1 at half time, and then from the 58th minute, when Isak scored his second goal, I think the Villa were just tired. That's all I think it was. I just literally think that I still don't think, you look at the players in both those squads, that the business Villa have done is great, and the business that Newcastle have done is also great, and I just don't think you can tell the difference. And again, I'm a stats person. Like, I just genuinely think that the stats tell the story with that, and I just think Villa were unlucky. And they first game of the season, you go away to St James's Park on a Newcastle that we know are going to be better. They're going to be up for it.
Yeah, I was going to say there are a few harder games like first up to go to than they've just got Champions League football. They've just signed Sandro Tonali, who I have to say I thought was absolutely outstanding.
So good.
And then the fact, did you see that he went there to Wetherspoons and booked a table afterwards? Literally,
So funny.
But they'll love him for that. Like he'll be absolutely loved him for that. And I mean, I'm not a Newcastle fan, and I love him for that. Do you know what I mean? Like,
to be fair, this weekend we have been treated by midfielders, central midfielders. This opening weekend, there's been some proper outstanding performances, and he was definitely one of them.
yeah.
His goal as well. Not a lot of people were talking about his finish, but it was a very good finish. He's had to stretch for it, made proper contact on it, and
Keep it down as well.
yeah, and he's leaning so much that he's had to go down, and it's just. Honestly, I thought it was probably one of the better debuts for a midfielder.
I thought he was absolutely outstanding. I think the other thing as well, in context for Villa as well, is that they are missing a lot of their, especially now obviously Mings, as I know he played, but they're also missing they're missing Moreno, and I'm not being funny. Luca Digne is a championship player at best. He is awful.
Your Everton hate coming out.
No, it's not. He's terrible. I watched him for 3-4 years ago. Brilliant. But just now, literally, and Matty Cash, great winger, terrible fullback.
He had such a great chance to score on that.
Oh, I know, yeah, exactly. But they Jacob Ramsey, and that I love him. I absolutely think he's the dog's bollocks. And if Liverpool could go and sign any midfielder, I would say, can you go and sign Jacob Ramsey, please? Because I absolutely love him. But they're missing him as well. And Villa will be fine. It is literally just a one-off. The thing is, actually, the amount of attacking potential in that team, Diaby is going to terrify people.
It's amazing as well.
He both feet, dynamite quick, really good control of the ball. I thought when I first sort of saw him, when I watched him when he was back at Leverkusen, I thought got bags of potential, but very erratic, and he just seems to have gotten rid of that. He just seems to sort of have figured out how to have final product. He's gonna be some player, I think, for Villa. That's a great sign. But I love Ollie, but he needs help as well. He needs to probably be a little bit more clinical. But no, I don't think there's anything to worry about. I still think Villa will finish in that top 8, top 6. I'd be surprised if they didn't. Because the other thing about Newcastle as well is that the proof's in the pudding. When they get to Champions League, then we'll see. When they actually have to rotate that squad, then we'll see. Is Ben there? Ben? Ben! Dagobah! Dagobah system! Ben!
You went walkies.
We're less successful debutants as me hosting this podcast, but what about Bournemouth and West Ham then? What are your thoughts on that? That was pretty kind of... there was a lot to take away from that either, to be fair.
No,
Actually, I think there is, because I think, personally, I think that shows that West Ham are potentially in trouble, because I don't think Bournemouth have got a good chance either at staying up, and I think a draw between the two of them, again, we're talking about open weekend, it could be a complete and utter just nonsense result, but a 1-1 to me screams that that's two clubs who both haven't invested well enough, in my opinion.
No. Well, I think West Ham are sorting that now, though, aren't they? Although the Maguire deal is down the toilet. That's what I've heard today.
But doesn't want to leave. Go.
Because I think with Maguire, we've always said it. I think his stay at Man United is almost becoming like a poison chalice, and I think it's almost kind of a bit like Phil Jones. He's going to just be stuck on that bench, not doing anything.
a club like West Ham would be great for him to like.
Yeah.
I think any club would. I think having an opportunity to just clean the slate, go into a new club with with the fans behind him, he could become a great player, especially in set pieces. You always rely on him to be in the box and challenging for goals. So it just seemed a bit odd that he's kind of so reluctant to leave Man United. You can only really put it down to maybe he's just more as a family situation, or if it's the money.
Oh, man loves the dollar.
Yeah, from the footballing perspective, it doesn't make sense to stay at United.
Matt,
surely as well, if it was me, like I know we're getting slightly sidetracked off the Bournemouth West Ham game, but it would be, if I was Gareth Southgate, I'd be saying to him, take a move, because I'm not going to select you if you are not playing. And he's already told him.
Oh, Sam.
He's already told him that he will only pick players that are playing, and I genuinely think that
he's kept his word in the past, yeah.
I genuinely think that this season, when we go to the Euros, I feel that if Harry Maguire has played less than I don't know, he played I think it was like 400, 500 minutes worth of football last season. If he plays similar sorts of minutes compared to last season, he won't get picked.
Agreed. I don't think he will.
I'd be surprised.
I mean, if he's picked, he won't be playing. He'll be a squad player.
Yeah.
This is what I mean. I think even if they put him in the lineup, he's still going to go to that camp, because I think with we are getting sidetracked, but I think with this Gareth Southgate, it's about having a squad of players that know each other very well, and it's all about keeping the camp happy. I think it's all become a bit kind of a circle for certain players. But anyway, what I will say about the game, I know I just got to suck it in. You put the hook in my mouth, and I was fighting the will, and I knew I was going to die, but I did it anyway. All for glory.
Yeah.
Greatest England manager of all time.
Yeah.
Sir Gareth, arise.
I think I watched Bournemouth and Southampton pre-season, and obviously there's not a lot you can take away from pre-season, but there is one thing I did notice a lot, was that Billing was pretty much the glue in that squad. I think he held that game together when I went to see him in the pre-season. I've never seen a player so instrumental to a team, and I think, like I've said before.
Are you sure about that?
I think if Billing gets injured this season, Bournemouth could be in a lot of trouble.
I think he is one of those players that does, he does boss it, and I think the other player that I think they'll really want to look after for is Brooks. He's some talent, that kid, and especially after coming back from stuff, is just it's amazing, really, the story behind him, and I just think he looks really good as well, and him and Billing seem to play really well together as well. There's a good bit of link up between the two.
Yeah. I actually think they'll be fine. I don't know why. I just think they're going to be okay. I don't know why. I just think that they've not really massively reinvented the squad. The manager they've got is very good. He's apparently he's the next sort of big thing, and I have sort of had a little read through on what he's done beforehand, and yeah, it's quite impressive. But I think if West Ham can get forward, I think all the problems go away. Do you know what I mean? I just don't understand how they've got this Rice money, and yet we're going after Maguire, we're going after James Ward-Prowse, and it's just you've still got Mick Antonio up front.
Great sign.
Oh yeah, he's a brilliant sign for him, because he's got leadership. That replaces the leadership hole left by Declan. Harry Maguire would be a great signing, but why the priority isn't to go and get the only player they've got, I think, that's capable of getting double-figure goals regular is Bowen. He's the only player. He is the only player, and if he. Oh God! Honestly, I'd be surprised if he kind of plays a bit I know he had a bit of a slow year last year, but towards the end of the season, he picked up a bit, and he obviously is a man for the big occasion. I think he's got a very good record. In the big games, he seems to always score. Against the big teams, he always manages to sort of get one. I think if West Ham struggle again, I'd be surprised if he didn't get a move. or if
Bowen is their most important player.
Oh God, yeah, definitely.
He's kind of instrumental to that West Ham, and I think Will Prowse is the perfect signing for West Ham because we all know how deadly they are on set pieces.
Yeah, I just think that they just need a centre forward. I think if they do that, they are safe as houses because the rest of the squad's actually quite good. Do you know what I mean? That they do just need someone though. That's gonna that.
They need someone to almost take that pressure off of Mikel Antonio because he's not a bad forward, but he's not going to get you a load of goals. He's not going to get you 15, 20 goals.
No, he had one season where he looked like he was a sort of proper Premier League centre forward. After that, he's a nuisance. Do you know what I mean? He's an absolute handful, and I think in that respect he's brilliant. But it's just, I think the way West Ham play is that you're relying a lot on clean sheets if you think you're going to get wins, because I can't see you scoring more than 1 or 2 a game. Do you know what I mean? So
I don't know about Antonio because I get it. Like you say, he's not going to be somebody who's going to be a prolific scorer who's going to score 15 plus goals, but it's almost a bit like he almost plays like a false nine in the sense that he's such a workhorse up there. He's holding up the ball a lot, and I think that's where they get so much out of Bowen, out of their width. They did so well in the past where they kind of exposed the wide areas.
Yeah,
I don't think Antonio has to score goals to be, kind of effective in that squad. I think he can.
No, but I think if they want to progress and they want to not be in a relegation fight like they were last year, then they need to get someone that can put the ball in the back of the net regularly. Because if Bowen gets injured, then name me another player in that squad that's going to get you goals regularly. I can't think of one. I genuinely can't think of one. So
they need a plan B.
Yeah, they do. Do you know who did impress me over the weekend? And this is a lovely segue, I suppose, into the next one. And I thought were really good. And I probably maybe did them a bit of a disservice last time. Was Palace. I thought they were really good against Sheffield United. Although having said that, now the fact that they're losing it at Elise makes me worry a bit more. To be fair.
If you look at that game, they absolutely dominated it, to be fair. They had 67.8% possession, they had 24 shots in total. Sheffield United with 32% possession, only 8 shots, only 1 on target.
Yeah, it's almost like Roy Hodgson's forgotten that he's Roy Hodgson. Do you know what I mean? Like they just suddenly started playing attacking football.
I mean, Palace had 8 shots on target.
Eze, mate. Eze. Just...
Their passing accuracy was 82.9%. Sheffield United was 61%, and it just they did look good. I do agree. They look good, and
it's crazy though because when you look at the roster of players, you think, how is this a team that's struggling for goals? Because they have so many dangerous players, and I don't know whether losing Zaha is going to kind of almost put an impetus on other players to kind of raise their level. Because you can get that when you lose a big player, that other players kind of step up. And maybe this is a chance for Palace to be a more
well-rounded team. I think the thing, I think it's crucial now that Eze stays fit. If Elise does go to Chelsea, I should say when, because they get what they want. When Elise goes to Chelsea, that's going to be a big hole to fill, because I think
he's my one for having a really good season. He's my
I
think he's great.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's an absolutely phenomenal player.
So there's one interesting thing I want to talk about the Palace Sheffield United game. Palace only made 1 sub that game.
Good.
It was 1 sub, and it was in the 92nd minute. The 92nd minute. So does that say that Hodgson hasn't got the depth that he needs or wants, or does that say he has faith in his starting 11? But obviously without Elise starting.
He certainly can't do that all season. He's got to rotate. So
first game of the season, you only make 1 sub. That's interesting. That's weird. Weird. I don't get that. I sort of feel that you want to rotate a little bit first game of the season, because there will of course still be that little bit of.
We still want minutes from your players. Yeah, you want to get game time in.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It's a bit strange that 92nd minute and you make your first sub. unless Hodgson's just got a bit senile and forgot he could do that.
No. Oh, did you see him square up though to Lowe? Love that.
Still picture of him is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I mean,
Angry old person in Tesco trying to get the last fruit off the stand or something like that.
Yeah, I literally actually thought I just saw angry, constipated old man. That's literally what I thought it was. I thought it was brilliant. But
until he gets to the walking stick, you know.
Yeah.
He's going to be on the pitch like in it with a Zimmer frame. That he just cannot escape football, can he?
He loves it. Any words on Sheffield United? I thought they were the poorest out of everyone this weekend. I thought that they put in the worst.
Hard to say, I think.
Oh, they were not the worst. I thought they were the team I was most unimpressed with, and looked like they weren't equipped to cope with it. I originally had Luton as bottom, but I don't really think there's much between them. To be fair, actually, especially now, especially after selling Ndai, it does seem a little bit like they've just kind of thrown the towel in and gone, well, we are going to get relegated, which is fine. But I do. Yeah, I don't know. I just guess, especially because it's obviously, it's at Bramall Lane, it's first game of the season. You'd think they'd be really, really up for it and be thundering into tackles, and it just felt all a bit meh. Do you know what I mean? All a bit nicey, which isn't what you would expect at Sheffield United. Do you know what I mean? You expect it to kind of be blood and thunder and whatnot.
Sheffield United of old, though, is it?
Well, no, it's not got Neil Warnock for a start, which is probably a blessing, really, in disguise.
I think it's probably too early. I think it is too early. It's not.
Yeah.
I think it is too early. I just think I do agree. I don't think they did anything that made me go.
No.
It might be all right.
No. What other games have we got? Oh, we got Ben's favourites. We got Arsenal, probably the only team I think that are capable of stopping City this season.
We've got Arsenal, Nottingham Forest, and then Everton, Fulham. So
well, I mean,
it's both your favourites.
Which one's more enjoyable?
Let's talk about Arsenal quickly, because I think it almost felt a bit like we're back in the last season. I think it's that kind of same thing where they started off really strong. The first half is always kind of, you expect their best football, and in the second half they kind of almost like peter out. I don't know whether that's just down to fitness or how they managed the game, but it was, Nottingham Forest, they could have got something out of that game, and I think, you could say they were a bit unlucky not to get something out of that game. They just weren't forced one out.
Shall I hit you with some stats from that game?
Please do.
So Arsenal had 78.3% possession, Nottingham Forest 21.7%. Arsenal had 15 shots to Nottingham Forest 6, 7 on target, 2 on target, and the passing accuracy for Arsenal, which has been the highest out of all the games, out of all the teams from this first week, was 90.1%, and Nottingham Forest had a 68.5% passing accuracy.
So yeah, Forest really deserved something out of that, I think.
This is a game where stats don't tell the whole story, and I agree with Ben.
No.
I think
Ultimately,
that it was a very nervy performance. Although that doesn't say that it was a nervy performance. Watching it and looking at the highlights and everything, it didn't look great. It didn't look the best that Arsenal did last season. But again, this is first week. It's down to the first opening week of the Premier League. We don't read too much into it. But
No.
It didn't look great.
No.
convincing, and I think the thing is that the stats come down to their style of play. I think Nottingham Forest weren't going to try and do Arsenal with possession.
No.
They were looking to hurt them in the transitions and kind of like win the moments where they
were definitely looking for like the counter attacks, 100%.
Yeah, and I think that's where they looked more deadly in the second half, and I think that they did definitely looked like they could have hurt Arsenal. But no, full credit to Arsenal the first half. They were brilliant. I think they did really well to manage the game, and how they did, what they did last season, really. But am I convinced that they're going to kind of be the ones rivaling City this season? No, I'm not. And that's my hot take.
I still think that they'll be second. I still think they'll be second. I still think City will win the league, but I do think that Arsenal will still be the ones. Just because I look at the players that they've bought, and you look at Declan Rice. I know Timber's now injured. He's done his ACL, and
that's gutting as well, because I think I think that's a real kick in the nads, to be fair. But
you look at Declan Rice, Timber, even Havertz looked pretty good at the weekend, and I just sort of think, actually, they've got in the bench they had Emil Smith Rowe, still had Trossard, Jorginho, Vieira, Reece Nelson. That's a good talent, and they had.
Honestly, I think the only one on that bench that looks threatening.
Yeah, they can't be on the bench.
No, I think they're more than well equipped to do it. Like I said, it's the same thing. Is that it doesn't matter how you play first week. It doesn't matter. The important thing is that you get the result. And in all fairness, Arsenal could have been 4 or 5-0 up by the time that Forest scored. So it's all ifs, buts, and maybes. Maybe it's me blindly holding out hope that someone other than City will win it. They are the only team, I think, that at the moment are equipped to do it. If United go out and they strengthen properly, maybe get another centre forward, because I can't believe I'm saying this as a Liverpool fan, because we've got a great history of doing that. But then buying a player that is going to be injured for a sort of significant amount of time in a position that you really need probably doesn't help, and I do think that obviously I think they do need to get someone in of sufficient quality to help back up Casemiro in that CDM role, because I can't see him lasting all year. But if Liverpool get a CDM, we might be in there, but we also need another centre back probably. Chelsea, I just think they're going to have a squad issue, and it's not. Arsenal, the only team I think that have enough balance and enough depth to challenge City. They are the only team that I think sort of look equipped. And for the best part of around about 60 minutes on Saturday, I thought that their performance, along with City's, was the only one that I was like, yeah, that's a really convincing sort of performance. But yeah, you're right, there maybe isn't. I don't think they are great at managing games. It does feel a little bit like if you hit them on the jaw a little bit, there is a bit of a glass chin there. And maybe that's a little bit of fallout from last year, and obviously kind of like memories of what happened at Anfield, at the London Stadium with West Ham. But that's something that they'll get over. Do you know what I mean? Eventually, and they already saw out the first test. They took a hit on the chin, but they saw it out, not convincingly. But I think they were also mucking about with the lineup a little bit. When I looked at it, obviously Gabriel wasn't playing. I know that Timber was playing left back, I think. I think Partey and Rice played, which I was a bit surprised about. I thought it would be one or the other. Because then they had Havertz and Odegaard and Partey, and so I think the formation, maybe they're trying out that kind of box formation at home. There's lots of things I think to it that I was surprised, because obviously Gabriel didn't start. And now there's rumours he's going to Saudi, so that could be problematic, because I think last year I thought he was just as good as Saliba, to be fair. And obviously he's a naturally left-footed centre back, which is what you want.
I've just seen that as of an hour ago, Fabrizio Romano has said that Chelsea have agreed £58 million deal for Romeo Lavia.
Good. Screw him, prick. No, I've got. In all fairness, literally, to be fair, I said to you guys off of there, and I stand by it. I think, did we bugger up the deal? Yeah. Do I, in some ways, still think it was actually a bullet dodged? Yeah. Because I genuinely don't think there was that much interest from us at the start of the window towards it. The only thing I think we were going to do is that we were going to try and buy Lavia on the cheap, so he could be the fallback for Fabinho, and then obviously selling Fabinho then went, oh crap, we need a CDM now. And obviously Saints know that, so then they upped the price of it, and then we were haggling over 5 million. Yeah, and that's no one's fault but Liverpool's. Yeah, and I have no sympathy whatsoever for them. Do I think 58 million to 60 million to 50 million is a good price for Lavia? No, I don't. I think it's a lot of money to spend on a guy who's essentially unproven in the Premier League at 19 years old. Could he be very good? Yeah, 100%. But yeah, but if you could,
everywhere.
Just honestly, yeah.
What did you think of Forest for that game?
I thought they looked quite good. I don't think they're going to be in trouble at all. I think Stevie Cooper's got them all together now. I think that they did brilliantly last year, considering the sheer amount of numbers that they brought in to stay up. I think that was always going to be beneficial then for the next year, because they don't need to really add that much. Do you know what I mean? I think anything they do from here on in is going to be a bit of a bonus. I think that they're a lot stronger than the majority of the other teams that are going to be down there. And I think, I what's his name? The guy I know his name, but I can never pronounce it. Amoni? Is that how you say it? The centre forward. I think he's. I wouldn't say he's Premier League quality, but I think he's good enough to get you 10 goals in the Premier League, which I think is probably around about what you need, really, to probably stay up. You need someone like that, and then a few other players that can chip in with 5 or 6 here and there, and you'll be fine. And they've got that in abundance because they've got Brennan Johnson and Morgan Gibbs-White. They've got more going forward, I think, than a lot of the other teams down there. So, I was quite impressed, actually. I wasn't impressed in the first half, but then I think Arsenal were just on one. Do you know what I mean? And I mean, we've all seen it. We all sampled a little bit of it last year. When Arsenal get into a groove, they are a little bit unplayable on occasions. It's the closest thing I've seen to City. What happened? Yeah, we've all been on the receiving end. Apart from Ben, actually, strangely, we've all been on the end of a City hiding. And like when they can play like that and just beat the crap out of teams.
Ben, you said you sounded an awful lot like Mike then. What? I was like, Ben, what did you think of Forest at the weekend? And you
sorry, I didn't realise you said Ben. Sorry, mate, I didn't hear that bit.
I thought they were alright. I think I agree with Mike. So he's effectively just extended what
Sorry, mate.
I think they were right to keep Steve Cooper, and I think they've done a good job to balance out the squad. I think, you didn't really know you didn't really know what Nottingham Forest were trying to achieve last season. It was all a bit of a mess. But I think he's kind of steadied the ship. He's probably got a squad that kind of know about him more as a manager and know what he's trying to get out of them. So I think they'll survive. Like you said, there are worse teams below them, so
I think the other thing as well is that this is going to be an incredible segue, by the way, which I think this is something we should try and do, is like vote for best segue of the episode. But I think the thing is that Forest have literally got like a chairman that kind of like learns. Do you know what I mean? Like he learned, oh my god, I've literally just splashed out a load of cash on about 50 different players and I have no idea how many of them are actually any good, and he seems to sort of like learn from that. Which then leads us on to Everton. Oh, yes! With the crappiest chairman around, possibly except for FSG. But yeah, can we talk about Everton? It will cheer me up. It's the one thing that's going to cheer me up. Come on, they're shite, aren't they? Come on. Let's just say it.
They're starting 11. So I'll go into stats in a minute as well. Pickford's goal. Patterson, Keane, Tarkowski, Ashley Young, James Garner, Idrissa Gueye, Onana, Iwobi, Decore, Mope. On paper, that doesn't sound that bad. On paper, I would probably say that's a good sort of
bottom
mid-table team. Yeah, definitely. And then the thing is with them, I think Sean Dyche, I think is I like him as a manager. I think he's great, and he is probably the only manager I think who could do that Everton job at the minute. He was another manager who he only made 2 subs in that game. First one came in the 72nd minute, so he potentially didn't see much wrong with the starting 11 that he picked, but Reed scored that brilliant goal for Fulham in the 73rd minute, and so the stats for that game were surprisingly, or not, depending on what side of the fence you sit on, whether it's blue or red. Everton had 40.6% possession, Fulham had 59.4%, However, Everton had 19 shots and Fulham only had 9. And 9 of those shots for Everton were on target compared to Fulham's 2. So, yeah.
I love Neil Maupay.
And but if I'm honest, looking at that game, it had a draw written all over it from the start. I didn't think it was going to be Everton winning or Fulham winning, so I think Fulham were quite lucky to get the result. But I do like Marco Silva as well as a manager. He does strange things to clubs when he goes there. So yeah, I was surprised to see Fulham win. To be honest, I was expecting at least Everton to score, and going off with the stats, you would probably expect them to. But yeah, interesting one. I just don't. It's probably something to look at for Sean Dyche was the amount of aerial duels that they lost. So they only won 37.5%, and then Fulham won 62.5%. So you know, there's a definite sort of muscle required, I think, for that Everton side, or a bit more of bite to their challenges.
Yeah. I think the problem is that club's stuck in the mud. I don't see them evolving. I don't see them progressing out of their current state, and I think they are going to probably be that team that struggles to kind of stay outside of the relegation battle.
They need to get out of the mud though, because of that stadium that they're building. I mean, you can't be a championship team and have that stadium that's being built for them. It just I think it says 60 or 70 seat 1,000 stadium. I think I saw. Which, yes. You know, it just the money that they're pumping into the club, you might just need to dip into the transfer market if you can, and get some players on board, because I just don't think.
The thing is, it's going to take so much time to slowly change out the squad they've got now, because you're talking about multiple transfer windows where you've got to find quality to replace pretty much for most positions, because on paper, like you say, there are some experienced veterans who've kind of regulars in the Premier League, but for some reason or other it's not clicking. And
we said with like Luton and the sort of results that they need, you know, the sort of games where they would get results. These are the sort of games where you would want, you know, with a fairly new manager, and a good manager in Sean Dyche to, you know, pick up at least a point. They're it's the sort of like game where you feel a draw wouldn't be a bad result for either team. So I don't know.
It's one of those things where I can almost expect Luton to beat Everton, and for it to be like a surprise, but in reality it's probably not a surprise, because I think that's the kind of state of Everton. There's that kind of, it's a bit like what Spurs were last season, where they kind of went into a game and it didn't matter if you were against Man City or you were against Norwich. It was always a bit of like, it was a potluck. You didn't know how they were going to come out at the end of it. And I think that's kind of with Everton. It's like they're going to be games where you kind of expect them to win, but they'll struggle, because I don't think the ship has steadied yet. No. I think it's going to take a long time.
There is some work to do, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think we'll leave Mike's opinion, because I don't think he can be unbiased in this.
I can be very unbiased.
It's a fact he expects Tottenham to be relegated with Sheffield United and Luton, but not expect Everton to be in that.
Because
I thought Everton would probably be one of those out of the 5 we picked. I'm sure I left Everton in there.
Everton above Tottenham is actually incredible.
Because they always get out of it. And they will do again.
I've never been next to it, so it's.
Okay, so next week, then let's. I don't know if you're happy for me to, Ben. I will read through the results and we'll do a quick fire of who you think's going to win.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So Friday's game is Forest Sheffield United. Ben, what's your result?
Ooh.
Forest 2-1.
Mike?
Forest 2-0.
I'm going for a 1-1 draw.
Ooh.
So Saturday, you've got Fulham Brentford. Ben?
Oh, I'm gonna say 1-0 to Brentford.
Mike?
1-0 Fulham.
I'm going to agree with you, Ben. I think Brentford will win, but I think it'll be a 2-0. Okay, and then other 3 o'clock kickoffs, you've got Liverpool, Bournemouth. So, Ben?
I'm gonna go 3-0 to Liverpool.
Mike?
I'm going to go 2-0. No, 3-1. 3-1 Liverpool, because there's no way we're keeping a clean sheet.
Yeah, I agree. I think Bournemouth will score, but I think you'll win, so I'm going to go 2-1. Luton Burnley is postponed for some reason next weekend.
Oh, it's because of Kenilworth Road. Because obviously it's still not in. No, yeah.
Yeah, that's the other issue with them. They're going to have to get that sorted soon.
Yep.
So we've also got 3 o'clock is Wolves and Brighton.
Well, I'm just going to assume that Wolves has had a really good game. That's kind of like a one-off, but I think Brighton will. I think they'll win that. I think 2-0 to Brighton.
I'm going to go a draw and go 1-1.
Yeah, my initial thought was a draw. So, but I think there'll be goals. I think there'll be 2-2. 5:30 game is Spurs United. So we've got our first head-to-head of the season for out of us 3. So let's try and keep this as sort of heart, not pick with your heart, because I know what you're going to say, Ben. So let's have your result. What do you think?
It's our first home game. I think it will be a battle, but I still tip us 3-2. I think there'll be goals.
Come on, Mikey, then. What are you thinking as the unbiased for Spurs United?
I'm going to go United 3-1.
Away.
I mean, you'll just catch them on the counter-attack.
I've got 0-0. I think it's going to be a draw.
I don't think you're going to get many 0-0s of Spurs this year. I don't think, because they are all-out attack, which is great. Which is great to watch.
I say, okay, maybe not a 0-0 then, but maybe definitely a draw. Couldn't say who goals, but I think a draw. It depends on what Ten Hag does at the weekend, for the rest of the week rather. So
I don't think you can play as badly as you did yesterday.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't put it past us.
Yeah.
8 o'clock kickoff is City Newcastle, another big one.
I have a weird feeling it's going to be a draw. I think it'll be like a 1-1.
Mikey?
I'm going to go for a City 4-1. I think Newcastle didn't really impress me that much against Villa, I don't think. And Villa were terrible defensively. I don't think City will suffer the same thing.
I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say Newcastle 2-1.
I hope you're right. Like, with everything I have, I hope you're right.
Sunday, so you've got Villa Everton is the first game at 2.
Oh god, that's going to be I'm going to say 4-0 to Villa.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be at least 3-0 Villa.
I'm going 5.
Second game on Sunday is West Ham and Chelsea.
Right, I think I'm going to go 3-1 to Chelsea.
Mike?
West Ham have actually got a decent record against Chelsea at the London Stadium. I think I'm going to go West Ham 2-1.
So looking at it, I think West Ham are actually favourites at 3-1. Chelsea have got 17-20, or maybe the odds, yeah, pretty much similar, aren't they? So it's not too different. I think I was quite impressed with Chelsea at the weekend, so I think that's going to be I think this is going to be a good season for them. So I'm saying 2-1 Chelsea. And then the Monday game is Crystal Palace Arsenal.
Do you want to get your home win out the way, Ben?
I think it. I want to say 0-0, but that's my bias. But I think Arsenal will find a way to score a goal. I think Palace is going to be hard to break down as always, but I think it'll be. I think it's leaning towards an Arsenal 1-0.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that would have been my prediction, 1-0 Arsenal.
I'm going to go with a. I think there'll be goals actually, because I think Palace are a lot more offensive than they used to be, and I think Arsenal tend to concede. I'm going to go 2-1 Arsenal, but I wouldn't be surprised if Palace got a draw.
Okay. So that's next week.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
Triple captaining Rashford, obviously in my FPL.
Anyone who hasn't got Haaland captained is foolish.
I've got Mo, obviously. At home to Bournemouth.
Yeah,
I've got Diaz. I actually think, here's another hot take on my part. I think Diaz will score more goals than Salah if he's fit.
Sorry.
That's interesting.
That is brave. Mate, I hope you're right, because Mo's going to get at least 25, so if Diaz gets more than that, I'll be well happy. We are going to score a lot of goals, but we are going to concede a shed load. Absolute shed load.
Well,
that's it then, I guess. Yeah. Oh, here's where I tie off the podcast and kind of like say thanks for listening and catch us next podcast.
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah.
I've already done it, haven't I? I've just.
I'm keeping this bit in, Ben. So this is going to look very polished.
Yeah, if you want to rate my ability to host, and feel free.
Oh, you've done a great job, mate.
Absolutely. But don't forget, viewers, we don't care what you think of the podcast because we're still going to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's where we get all our pent-up football frustration out.
Absolutely.
So. It's just our outlet. You just have to bear with us,
Even if some of the takes are a little bit out there.
Yeah,
very spicy.
Let's be honest.
Some of them are right, aka mine, but I'm joking.
This is the thing, though. I think you kind of just put it out there, and you kind of like, but we know. That's right,
Yeah, mate. No. This will be the final sign-off, actually, because I think this would be a great question to anyone else as well that's listening. Ben, hypothetically, because I put this bet on, and if I was to tell you, Ben, that if I win, then I get $2,500 of that, and I were to give $2,000 of that to you and your family for doing me a favour, would you accept it? As in, would you take? You wouldn't watch Spurs get relegated for $2,000,
no.
Mate. You could have just done yourself $2,000. Honestly.
and I'll tell you what. Maybe we should. I'll add my question. Who do you think's a better player, Mount or Maddison?
Oh, there we go.
Oh God, this is the same with the whole. He's going to appeal to the whole Southgate. Oh, Southgate is the devil reincarnate. Southgate knows nothing about football. Mount's terrible. Oh, blah, blah.
I'm saying that for the next podcast,
mate.
Yeah.
I'll try and find a segue.
I'm saying goodbye. Bye, viewers. Bye, listeners.
Bye, everyone. Thank you. Thanks for hosting, Ben. It was great.
Great. Bye.
Bye.